Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching and Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channels. This is, of course, Pro Wrestling Logic, and this is the Impact review for the September 9th edition of the program, September 9th, 2021. Again, the flat show remains here, although there's some good stuff along the way and in the middle. Laredo Kid and John Skyler on BTI, which is kind of goofy to me that you have a debuting Laredo Kid, at least I believe he's debuting. I don't think he's been here before. And then John Skyler on a internet show that virtually no one watches. It's just goofy there. Anyway, tonight's opening video covered the ongoing feud between the Good Brothers, Rich Swan and Willie Mack. Swan talented. Good Brothers, yeah, I've seen good and not good stuff from them. Willie Mack, I still don't see it. I don't understand why a national company really sees much value in the guy, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, so they did a bunkhouse brawl for previous, and then there's Ace Austin defeating Tommy Dreamer. Rosemary with Havoc defeating Tasha Steelz with Savannah Evans. Rosemary starts the match and controls the pace and gets Steelz on the upside of thing and upside down, but Steelz turns things around for herself. Rosemary decides to get the top rope senton while giving Steelz times to recover and anticipate her next move. Steelz control only lasts for a couple of minutes before Rosemary makes a comeback, but Rosemary is too hurt. Steelz dodges the majority of the next offense. Rosemary's offense. Then there's a spear. Then they keep going. Rosemary manages to land a second attempt at the spear and get the win. Not the best match under any circumstance. After the match, Evans distracts both Havoc and Rosemary, allowing Steelz to steal the title belts, I guess the tag title belts. Evans ends up attacking them from behind and distract themselves. D'Lo and Matt Striker run down tonight's card. Gia Miller interviews Ace Austin, asked if he felt prepared for Christian Cage. Austin said that he has been prepared for the championship for a long time. They notice that Scott D'Amore is around and heads his way. Austin proposed that Cage should be in action next week, and since Fulton is free, he could take on that task. D'Amore agrees, but insisted that they make it a 10-man tag between Team Austin and Team Cage. What a stupid idea. Again, these multi-person matches just to fill time because you've got TV demands. I don't like them. I never will. Then they don't have any long-term value. Anyway, Austin walks up to Brian Myers and asks him to join Team Austin. Myers agrees to this. We get vignettes of Rhinos Rehab with Violent by Design. Young interrogates Rhino about what he has learned during his time of isolation. Rhino is once again baptized in holy water of change. And then Carl Anderson with Doc Gallows defeats Rich Swan in a bunkhouse match. Amazing that Swan, less than a year and a half ago, was the world champion in this company and now can barely get by Carl Anderson, who's a tag guy who, yes, he's been tag team champion in the area, but isn't really that impactful. Match decided as a result of Swan confronting the Good Brothers last week. Anyway, so Gallows takes out a couple of opportunities with Willie Mack some weeks ago. Then we get, Swan starts the match going after both Anderson and Gallows. And then there's weapons surrounding the ring. Swan manages to maintain momentum for a good while and then attacks Anderson and Gallows intermittently. Swan is pretty much in control, distracts himself between two people, becomes too much. Anderson is able to recover and take down Swan from behind. Anderson is completely dominant, working over Swan, and he puts himself through plywood sheet and attacks him with garbage can lids and back into what's left of plywood sheet, and then Swan dodges a running Anderson and is able to turn things around and get a near fall and then standing frog splash. Anderson comes back with a spine buster for a near fall. And Anderson goes for the gun stun, but Swan blocks it, and then Swan goes 450 splash. Anderson dodges it and comes back with a lariat. Miller then has a sit-down interview with Mickie James. She asks about Purrazzo attacking her at NWA 73rd. Do most people even know what the NWA deal is? Anyway, but before that, Gallows brings a table out and hits top rope gun stun and breaks the table. There we go. James said Purrazzo got the better of her because she didn't expect it. And because she let her guard down, James said she wouldn't let Purrazzo make a name for herself in that way, and she's a producer in NWA and Power, and now she's coming after Purrazzo as Hardcore Country Mickie James. Vignettes of Matthew Reinwald talking and painting. Trey Miguel is there. He challenges Miguel to a match next week. Miguel is not yet there. Miller interviews Josh Alexander about going into a match with Chris Sabin. Alexander says he's prepared for Sabin and brings up that Sabin's an 8-time X Division champion, which means he lost 8 times. Christian Cage approaches Alexander and asks him to join Team Cage for next week's match against Team Austin. A recap of last week's match with Raju and Shura defeating Cardona and Green, and then Raju knocks out Green with a jumping knee. Raju cuts promo. A lot of people are angry at him, and he did not apologize because he saw in Green's eyes how she wanted to take control of real men, and someone liked Cardona to hide behind her. David Finley defeats Chris Bay. Bay is a representative of the Bullet Club, and he's feuding with Finjuice for a couple of months, and then they come back into the promotion and said on the same night, and Jay White debuts. Bay starts the match by standing and kind of being goofy. Finley said enough and chases Bay to the floor. They start going back and forth. Match gets back in the ring finally, and Finley catches Bay with back elbow, and then goes for pin attempt. Finley tries to follow through with a plancha on the floor and gets tripped up. Bay successfully cuts Finley off from the ropes and gains control of the match. Bay then works over Finley for a couple of minutes before he gets cocky and thought he could hit an art of finesse, only for Finley to block him and make a comeback. Finley then gets a good near fall with a backbreaker and quickly transitions in the STF and into a crossface. But there's a struggle. Bay makes the ropes, and after a couple more near falls, Bay gets in the same pin and he used to defeat Finley 2 weeks ago. Except Juice Robinson is ready to make sure Bay couldn't cheat, and then there's distractions. Finley rolls up Bay and gets the win. No one really cares about this. Post-match, Hakuto makes his debut and takes out both Robinson and David Finley. Hakuto and Bay take out Robinson's ankle. Josh Alexander and Chris Sabin wait for Scott D'Amore, and they are waiting for the contract signing of their Victory Road match. They both have words with each other and signed the contract. And after Alexander's gone, Cage asks Sabin to join in on Team Cage. Sabin accepts. Over Swingers Palace, TJP, Ba, and No Way Jose ride and place a bet on McLean versus Williams. This is kind of a goofy segment. Williams and McLean have been feuding for a while. Matches back and forth. Both keep fast pace throughout the contest. McLean is about power moves. Williams does speed. He does high-flying offense. Williams sets up Canadian Destroyer, but TJP, No Way, Jose, and Bach come in, and Conga Line distracts Williams long enough for McCain to hit the Mayhem for the win. And then we move on to TJP and Williams eyeing each other, and it's basically hinted that TJP is going heel. I'm not sure that that's good or bad. Anyway, Miller interviews Eddie Edwards about facing Moose with Morrissey in his corner. Edwards said last week he got taken out because he wasn't ready, but this week he's ready for both of them. And Sami Callihan walks up to Edwards and told him he needed him, but Edwards rejects the idea of him working alongside Callihan. Christian Cage also walks up to him and asks them to both join Team Cage. Callihan accepts this, but Edwards tells Cage that he has to choose between him and Callihan because he's not going to team with Callihan. Miller then asked Ace Austin if his team's finished before he could answer. Moose and Morrissey approached him and said that if either he or Callihan or Edwards made Team Cage, they were Team Austin. And in your main event of the day, Moose with Morrissey defeats Eddie Edwards. These two obviously have a long feud. Match starts with back and forth action. Very similar to a foreign Japanese pacing. A lot of strikes and shoulder blocks. Moose cuts off Edwards, goes to the ropes, snaps his arm on the ropes. Moose then continues going after Edwards' arm and some interference of Morrissey outside the ring. Edwards then makes a comeback and gets into another strike exchange with Moose, and then that ends. Moose gets spun around with a lariat, only to be taken out when Edwards goes for the Boston Knee Party, and then Edwards dodges, lights out, and gets a near fall. Morrissey is able to put Moose with the legs on the ropes. Edwards returns for the dive on Morrissey, but is a distraction and allows Moose to hit lights out and get the win. Post-match, Morrissey and Edwards ganged up on Moose until Sabin comes out for the save. And ultimately, Sabin manages to take down both guys. Myers comes out, his gang. Everyone out, Moose and Morrissey recover, and they're able to take out Edwards. When Alicia, of all people, come out and says she can't do much and then gets destroyed by Morrissey, Callihan makes a save. Callihan and Edwards work together to take out Morrissey, and at the request of Christian Cage, both men patch things through. Team Cage pose together as the show goes off the air. Anyway, just a complete cluster mess of a show. Nothing really to see here. Anyway, we'll be back right after this.